the global profile of the Premier League as well as the national profile are very, very powerful attributes for us to be part of. Because Brighton is one of the smaller Premier League clubs with perhaps lower international profile than clubs like Manchester United or Liverpool or some of the big London clubs. So to have a global brand like American Express and like Nike alongside us helps take us into markets that we might not otherwise be as well known. Paul Barber, Chief Executive and Deputy Chairman, Brighton Hove Albion Football Club. I mean, probably the most interesting, exciting part of it is that I couldn't tell you. You know, every day is different, and you know there might be media interviews, meetings with sponsors, calls with the owner, board meetings, meetings with local government, meetings with the Premier League or the Football Association, meetings with staff and supporters, a whole range of different stakeholders. That really comes into every single day of running a football club like Brighton in the Premier League. The variety is great, the challenge is significant, but that's one of the things that makes it such an energetic and enjoyable place to be. Well, certainly what I'd like to see is for us to stay in the Premier League and continue to work towards our long-term vision, which is to become a top 10 Premier League club. And of course, along the way, we know that that's going to be difficult. There's going to be ups and downs and bumps in the road, and hopefully we're strong enough and resilient enough to overcome those challenges. And there will be some, because professional sport is full of them, and there's no guarantee that just because you've made it to the Premier League after a lot of hard work that you're going to be able to stay there forever. So we've got to keep working hard, and hopefully we'll really realise our ambition. Well, first of all, the global profile that comes with playing in the Premier League is valuable to our club, not just for ourselves, but also for our commercial partners, American Express and Nike. It's also great for the city because it helps the economy. A lot of hotel rooms get bought, restaurant tables get sold, a range of different visitors come to the city that might not otherwise have come. So the global profile of the Premier League as well as the national profile are very, very powerful attributes for us to be part of. It is important because Brighton is one of the smaller Premier League clubs with perhaps lower international profile than clubs like Manchester United or Liverpool or some of the big London clubs. So to have a global brand like American Express and like Nike alongside us helps take us into markets that we might not otherwise be as well known. And of course, overriding all of that, the Premier League's own brand is so powerful internationally that it's very, very helpful for us and valuable for us to be part of that. I think most importantly at the moment, there doesn't seem to be a huge appetite from supporters for a European Super League. I think football supporters, whichever country they're in across Europe, like their own domestic league. They like the competition itself. They like to be able to travel to games week in, week out, whether they're playing at home or away. I think the concept of a European Super League would change all of that. Yes, there will be bigger fixtures between bigger clubs, but the ability of fans to get to those fixtures on a regular basis and the cost associated with that is significant. I think the other factor is the environmental factor. You know, the idea of encouraging fans to spend more time on aeroplanes crisscrossing across Europe on an even more regular basis, I think would not go down well generally. So yes, of course it's a concern, but I think there's enough of an appetite from football fans in each country around Europe to maintain the league system as it currently is. I think women's football is going to grow and continue to grow substantially over the next decade. We're investing a lot of money in our Women's Super League team, but just as importantly, we're investing money in our regional training centre for girls, and that will enable us to develop our own young female players for the future and hopefully make the game stronger from the bottom up as well as at the top level of the Women's Super League. It was very different to working in the Premier League and very different to working in a country where football was the #1 sport by a long way. So to go to North America and in particular to Vancouver was a challenge because ice hockey is the #1 sport in Vancouver. Then the other American sports tend to be more popular than football, or soccer as they would call it. So part of my job there was to sell the game of football, soccer, as much as it was to sell my club. Fantastic experience, you know, partly because the way the league is run is very different to the way leagues in Europe are run. All of the clubs are effectively part owners of the league, so it's a single entity structure as they would call it. Obviously the fan experience is very different in North America. They place a lot of emphasis on looking after the fans in the stadium and making sure they have a great all-round experience as well as this sporting experience. And I think the positive attitude of the North American sports market to their business is so refreshing, and there's a lot to be learned from working in that environment.